Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Anuj here, an aspiring graduate student. I am recording this video from Mumbai and I have come here for my visa interview. But no, this is not a visa interview experience video. I'm going to be recording a separate video for that and I'll be uploading it sometime later. Today I'm going to be talking about GRE. As you guys know that I'm making a video series on GRE, and in my first video I talked about the GRE format, when should you book GRE, and what happens on the test day, is it still relevant in the post-pandemic era, and how do you report your test scores. Today I'm going to be talking about what was my score when I took GRE and what all things did I do, how I planned my studies to achieve that score and how you guys can achieve the score that you want. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you on the other side of the intro. So talking about my GRE score, my overall score was 321 out of a possible 340. In quant section, I scored 166 out of 170, and in my verbal section, I scored 155 out of 170. In analytical writing, I got a 3.5, which was pretty okay. I could have done better, but it still worked. So that was pretty much it about my score, and I just took one attempt for that, and I took my GRE I guess on November 10th in 2021, and I had around 1.5 months to prepare for GRE. So now I'll be talking about what plan did I use to prepare for GRE for both quant and verbal, and how you can also prepare something similar and achieve the score that you want. Now, before I start talking about my plan, there's one small heads up which I want to give you, and that is this plan may or may not work for you because these things are quite subjective. So the plan that I created was specific to me, and it may or may not work for you. But my purpose for showing this plan to you is that you can also come up with something similar. So it might take you a few more days than it did for me to prepare for quant, but the number of days or the plan that I'm creating, like that specific order, is not the important thing about it. The important thing is to come up with a plan which will suit your need and the score that you're targeting, and it should be achievable. So what I've done basically is I've divided quant in 10 basic sections as to come up with smaller tasks. So I'm breaking down a big problem into 10 smaller problems, and I think I took my GRE, as I said, on 10th of November, and I had around 1.5 months to prepare for it. So what I did was I assigned the first 15 days for preparation of quant, and in that I took these 10 sections and I used to devote around 45 minutes to 1 hour daily. So I used to practice around 35 to 60 questions on a daily basis on each of these sections. So these 10 sections had different chapters. So for GRE quant, I took help from the Manhattan 5-pound book, and for verbal I stuck with the ETS official guide. So I'll quickly show you the plan. So this is the plan that you can see here, and you can see here that I have divided the whole quant section of the book into 10 smaller parts, and it is based on basically which all topics I feel were quite similar to each other and I could do them at one go. So you see that I did group number 1 in the first 3 days, and then group number 2, and then 3, and so on. And you'll see that arithmetic, algebra, and inequalities, I feel that these are the topics which are quite similar to each other, so I clubbed them together, and I used to assign 45 minutes to 1 hour daily practice for that. Once I completed all these sections, I decided to take practice tests. So I took around 10 practice tests, starting with the ETS Power Prep 1. So my way of preparing for GRE was I started with ETS Power Prep 1 and I got my scores, and I identified the potential areas where I could improve, and then I started studying, and I took this book. I started solving more and more questions to give me enough practice for quant. And then after I was done, I started taking practice tests. So I took practice tests from Manhattan, from Princeton. I took it from Kaplan. And finally, when I was done, just 2 days before my final GRE test, I took the second ETS Power Prep. So in my first ETS Power Prep, I was able to score 170 in quant, which was quite surprising for me. And in verbal, I got a score of 145. which was not that satisfactory, but that gave me the confidence that I knew that I'm gonna score above 310 if I prepare well. So after I got this score, I started preparing for GRE. I used to solve all these problems. I used to, for verbal, I used to learn 15 words a day. So if imagine if you're taking 1 month for your preparation and you are learning 15 to 20, let's say you are learning 20 words in every day, then you can learn up to 600 words. Now in my case, I didn't do that because my aim was not to achieve 160 plus in verbal. I was aiming for somewhere between 315 to 320. So for that, my thought process was that I would get somewhere around 165 to 170 in quant, and in case of verbal, I was aiming for somewhere around 150 to 155. So for that, what I decided was, since in case of verbal, in one section out of 20 you'll get 13 questions from reading comprehensions. So I started working on my RCs, and I didn't focus a lot on my on my vocabulary or learning all these words, because I thought maybe like reading comprehension should be enough for me to achieve the score that I wanted to. So I started my preparation on that note, and after I would say 5 to 6 tests, I was consistently scoring 320 plus, and in my final ETS Power Prep 2, I was able to achieve a score of 324. So my final GRE score, that is 321, was a bit lower than what I was scoring in the practice tests, and that was because I was not able to do as well as I was doing in quant basically. So my advice over there would be, you take as many practice tests as you can, because it prepares you for a 4-hour long test that you'll have to take on your final day. And if you take enough tests, you'll gain a habit of sitting for these 4 long hours. As I said before, in my first ETS Power Prep test, I scored an average score that was 145, and I was not too happy with it, and I didn't have a very strong command over English. But I knew that if I work on my reading comprehension skills, I can definitely improve this score up to 150, and I was aiming around 320. So a score of 150 plus in verbal would have helped me tremendously. So for that, my recommendation would be that you guys start reading articles. It could be anything. You can read articles, you can read books, anything that interests you, but they should provoke your thinking process. Because if through your reading exercise you're able to work on your critical thinking and analytical ability, it will help you greatly in your verbal examination. I used to do that a lot. I love politics, be it both world and Indian politics. So I used to read a lot of opinions that you see in different articles and newspapers. So I used to go through them a lot, and I would have my own versions of them. I would come up with counters if they didn't agree to certain point of view that I used to have for those issues. So that is my recommendation for you, that if you too feel that you don't have a strong command over English, but you want to score 150 plus in verbal, what you can do is, the simplest thing is that you can learn a few words every single day, and then you can read articles or books or anything that you like, which will instigate that thinking process. Because in GRE verbal section especially, when you go through reading comprehensions, you'll see a lot of questions which will ask you which of the following options, if true, will make this argument the most strongest or the weakest. So in that case, you have to have a certain level of critical thinking, where you are looking at each and every option and thinking whether, if this is true, is it making this argument stronger or not. So for such questions, you need to read a lot of paragraphs, of a lot of articles, books. So these things would help you tremendously, and trust me, it did for me as well, because from 145 in my first practice test, I was able to achieve a score of 155. So with this, I conclude my video. I'll put the link of all the resources that I've discussed in this video in the description down below. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You can put them in the comments down below, and do make sure that you watch the part 1 of the GRE series, so that you'll cover everything that is there about GRE. Till then, it's a goodbye. Take care, study hard, and make sure that you get the score that you desire. Good luck.